Welcome to the Road to Redemption podcast with your host, Cam Williamson. Each week, Cam sets out to shatter the labels and stigmas associated with mental health awareness by giving life lessons and raw overviews of events happening around the world.
All right, what is up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I'm, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson. Do me a favor, hit the like button right now. Get it out of the way. Watch it light up. It's fun. If your subscribe button is still red and doesn't say subscribe, fix that. Slap it. It'll turn gray. Be out of the way. Hit the bell. It'll tell you every time these go live. Day 20. Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, defamation case, lawsuit, trial, whatever you want to call it. Today's been tough. Today was tough. First out the gate, we had an orthopedic surgeon. Now, for those of you that don't know, orthopedic surgeon did not see Johnny Depp. This is very important. As you could expect, this orthopedic surgeon wanted to talk about the Australia incident where Johnny Depp's finger was severed. Okay, so they have to be qualified as an expert witness first. This guy did well at credentialing himself. It was really not until about halfway through his direct or his cross-examination that his story started to kind of crumble, because he clearly just took Amber Heard's side of the story and goes, okay, how can I see this evidence to fit that narrative, right? So they showed one picture that I hadn't seen, which was like the front of Johnny Depp's finger. Okay, now, I'll admit, when I first heard Johnny Depp's side of the story of how the finger was lost, I had some questions as well. I thought maybe I missed something or I didn't hear it correctly, because the way I thought it to happen was Johnny had like his hands on the bar, kind of like that. Amber throws bottle number one. He kind of moves out of the way like this to avoid it. And then she throws number two, but I think he said he took another shot from the other bottle first. And he was in this kind of position, and that's when the second bottle shatters behind him, lopping off the finger. Not that the bottle hit it and went through to the wall, but that it was the shards of glass from the explosion of the bottle that caused his finger to be severed. Which, that alone, I was like, damn, what kind of piece of glass is bouncing off a wall to chop a finger off? I'm not saying it can't happen, but I was like, oh, okay. And then he wanted to, this doctor, this orthopedic surgeon, wanted to say that it was clearly a crush injury. How is that a crush injury when the man's finger is diagonally cut off? And he was trying to make much about how the nail wasn't damaged. And he was trying to even say that in a door, like when you slam your finger in a door, which I've done, and it fucking sucks, but when you do that, your nail is usually destroyed. So he tried to say it was a crunch injury and that it was not severed. And then, so during the cross, I was like, oh, that kind of solidifies some of the questions I also had about how Johnny claimed the finger came off. Not that I don't believe Amber's the one that severed it, but maybe just Johnny's recollection of his exact movements or what actually took the finger off. I could totally understand how you wouldn't know the exact moment that you lost your finger when it sounded like he didn't even really knew the finger was gone. Or he didn't even know the finger was gone for a minute or two, it took some time. So then our hero, Camille Vasquez, comes in and just starts ripping him to shreds immediately. You never saw Johnny, right? You only saw this, and this, which was all provided by Amber's team. You never even paid attention. You didn't even have any interest in looking at his side. You only took them at their words. Oh, by the way, you also charged her legal team $1,000 an hour for every hour you worked on this case, and now you're charging them $5,000 a day for every day you have to be here. Wonder why he was in and out and not even a whole day. Oh, by the way, her legal team has used you twice before as an expert witness. Odd. And then, Camille pretty much just went through to destroy him. I mean, just absolutely destroy him on everything he was trying to say, which was like, you don't know. You weren't there. And I think they were kind of setting up a principle for what they did to the next witness, the expert witness who barely qualified as an expert witness. Johnny Depp's team actually put up a rebuttal and said, I don't think this guy's an expert at all. And we'll just move on because, again, Camille destroyed the orthopedic surgeon. Just pretty much said, hey, dude, you don't know. You literally came in here and took Amber Heard's word for every single thing. And also, we don't think you even investigated this. You literally just picked a narrative and stuck to it. And we're going to talk about doctors, lawyers, psychologists, and all these fields and how they claim that they're so high and righteous and working for justice. Well, we're going to talk about that with this next witness. This next guy was an expert witness. He finally passed, the thing after some debate where he was a psychologist. Now, he was not Amber Heard's psychologist. He was not Johnny Depp's psychologist. He did examine some evidence of the case in which he chose to see it in the way that would best fit the defense, which is not shocking as he's, being called as an expert witness for the defense in this case. And let's remember that. So these people are paid, expert witnesses are paid by the defense to say what they're saying. And you're supposed to still believe that they would hold themselves unbiased and they would just say the facts that are relevant, right? We all kind of think about like Law and Order when you're watching the crime cases and they call in a forensic scientist to only say exactly what facts are. Yes, dirt would decompose a body like this. Yes, this. And they're telling facts. They're not giving the petitioner or the defense's side of the story and going, well, because Amber Heard said that he did this, I'm taking that as gospel. Outside of a therapist role where you would do that, but again, this guy never did that. He was only looking at certain pieces after being hired to tell a certain narrative, and that became all too clear. Now, Johnny Depp's attorney, Dennison, we've talked about Vasquez, we've talked about Ben Chew, and I think Ben Chew's just waiting in the wings for closing arguments. Dennison is the one that flopped majorly against Hughes and failed pretty massively to really even get her on much in the redirect. Today was similar. He was slow on objections. When he does make objections, he doesn't state why he's objecting, so that's frustrating. I don't know if it's house rules in that courtroom. You don't always see lawyers saying, objection, hearsay, objection, speculation, objection, lack of foundation. I've seen it, maybe it's just in TV, I'm willing to admit that they could just go objection and the judge goes sustained or overruled or whatever. They don't necessarily always state why they're objecting, but it would make sense as to why you would have to. So, and again, it's pretty clear by the way that the guy was answering the questions. He was clearly speculating, and this is where it gets odd, and this is where Legal Bites is helpful. I've listened to them again today. It's helpful because when it comes to an expert witness, they're allowed to say some things. They're allowed to watch the case, for instance, even when the trial was going on, people kept making a much about it. He was like, yeah, I saw that testimony. And people were like, oh my God, he just admitted to watching the trial. He's allowed to. Both of these people are. Now, I don't understand how that works, right? Because they're watching the trial. What if he goes up and he gets denied as an expert witness, but he can only testify as a general witness? Well, he's already watched the trial, so he can't. That would disqualify him right there. So I found that kind of odd. He knew exactly what narrative to paint. He died on his own sword, and it was a slow death, sure. Dennison is not sharp. He's not quick. He's not aggressive. He's not much. But we'll give him he's thorough. So towards when cross-ex started or when redirect started, it's slow and lazy out the gate. Let me talk about what was brought up by Elaine during the examination process of this. They wanted to talk about how Johnny Depp's substance abuse caused the interpersonal violence, being that because he was constantly in and out of sobriety and putting Amber Heard through the turmoil of never knowing whether he was going to be sober or not, that was enough to consider that they were in partner internal partner violence or interpersonal or interpartner violence, whatever they're calling it. IPV is what they're calling it in the case, right? So they're saying that just from that alone, just from you trying to support your spouse through addiction recovery, that in and of itself and the ebbs and flows of that could be enough to claim IPV. Well, that's a fucking stretch, right? So Dennison starts to slowly dissect that entire thing. But this is where I got really pissed off, because this guy claimed to be a psychologist, and he made so many toxic generalizations, like that all drug users or substance users are at some point, he's implying that at some point all addicts are prone to be abusers, to the point where they had to, like, ad nauseum, continuously ask him, so you're saying, because he wouldn't just answer it because it's damning to the narrative, what you're saying is that all people who abuse substances also abuse their partners. And finally he was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. He tried to, Elaine tried to get him to almost imply that on the stand he was diagnosing Johnny Depp with narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. Well, there's this thing apparently called the Goldwater Rule that was put into effect in psychology. I missed the year. He threw out a lot of dates, so I'm not going to try to speculate on what year it was. But essentially, it's that people in psychology or psychiatry should not view a celebrity and their public acts after never assessing them, having no personal assessment of them. They should not try to diagnose or even speculate on characteristics towards a diagnosis because you don't know. Dennison took a very long time to get this guy to pretty much say being an expert witness in psychology is a total crock of shit if you have never examined the witness or the person yourself, because you cannot speculate. You could look at anyone's behavior and speculate as to why they did that. But if they're in the midst of a mental health struggle episode, like a manic episode, you cannot then compare them to a rational thinking person. And that's the whole reason you have psychiatrists and psychologists, is to protect the struggle that the person or the patient is going through, not to discredit it. And not to further stereotypes that everybody that struggles with drug addiction or alcoholism is a threat to the society that they're around. Now, sure, some of the characteristics can be quite unnerving, and some of them don't fit very well into society, but the furthering narrative that every single one of them is dangerous and bound to abuse people around them is the reason why a lot of people don't actually seek support. And again, as a psychologist who they showed multiple times, you have no actual expertise in IPV. You might have written a few papers or co-authored a few things that were about trauma and how trauma is related now in this new thing of IPV, but this guy is not an expert witness on IPV. He's just a general psychologist, right? He got torn apart because where he tried to paint the narrative with that Goldwater Rule, it was so clearly a moral objection. This guy did not expect Dennison to pull that out. He did not expect him to know that essentially being a psychologist or a psychiatrist and creating a consultation firm to just go, I'm going to look at this in a general scope of mental health treatment, and I'm going to give you a ironclad statement based off generalities, that is immoral, because you're painting a narrative that could not exist or that doesn't have a complete list of evidence to, which we struggle enough when you look at the DSM-5, which is what psychiatrists or psychologists use to diagnose things. That's the diagnostic manual for mental health. There are so many blurred lines already between disorder and behavior, personality disorder or bipolar disorder or a personality trait, right? Like narcissistic personality disorder that borderlines just being a part of who you are as a person. It's not like it can come with chemical imbalances, but like a narcissistic personality disorder is just the way the person's personality is. Bipolar disorder is a chemical imbalance that's happening in the brain that's causing these impulsive reactions or depressive episodes in a person. PTSD is a disorder that is a severe dysregulation of the nervous system and how your brain responds to times of peace because of a specific or slightly extended period of time, but usually one extended instance is PTSD. Something that happens over an extended period of time would be CPSD, complex PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's all these blurred lines of even getting a hardline diagnosis for like a BP1, which is bipolar 1, is hard because you have to eliminate that there's any other possible diagnosis or symptom that's causing this other thing, i.e., right? If you claim that you're, narcoleptic, or what's the one where you just fall asleep? Right? If you claim that you have this like disorder inside your brain, but it comes to find out like you're not hydrating, you're malnourished, you've got all these things, well, they can't label you as this. That's a bad example because I don't think that's even like a mental health issue. That's a medical issue. But depression, right? If you're depressed, you're claiming you're going to a therapist saying you're depressed, but you just lost your job, your spouse left you, your dog died, your car broke down. Well, okay, you may not be depressed. Your life is not going well. You have thousands of valid reasons to be upset and be sad. I can try to help you make a plan to get out of that. But as far as diagnosing you with depression and that, no, because you have so many variables that could be leading to these symptoms that are not the diagnosis themselves. And this guy wanted to smoothly try with Elaine to pin it that he was diagnosing Johnny Depp as a narcissist, as a actual narcissistic personality disorder, because that would be a diagnosis. Now, it's not one that I necessarily agree with. It's a personality disorder. It's like borderline personality disorder. It's not a diagnosis of mental health struggle. It's saying that's just how this person is. It's a way to label their personality. It's also a way to label that for other possible treating physicians in the mental health realm, they're probably trying to deceive you in some way. They're very well equipped to manipulate the words that they say so that you will believe the narrative they're trying to paint. A personality disorder tag is more of a red flag caution, I guess, of sorts. It's not this like a personality disorder compared to an actual disorder of the chemical regulation of your brain. That is what's being argued on the stand right now. And that was made very clear by what this man tried to do when he kept trying to say Johnny Depp has substance use disorder. That doesn't exist. So you're saying anytime anyone uses a substance, that's a disorder? No. Substance abuse is where the disorder comes in. When you cannot stop abusing substances, you have a disorder. When you use substances, you make a choice. If you keep making choices to overuse substances, you could then develop a what? Substance abuse disorder. Simply using substance is not a disorder. But that fucking psychologist that wanted to paint a narrative kept carefully saying Johnny Depp had substance use disorder, meaning he struggles from using substances. That's not something you can diagnose. You could diagnose that someone, per evidence and their telling or other people's telling of a situation, that someone's substance use has caused their life to become unmanageable, meaning that they have what? Substance abuse disorder, meaning the substance itself and the abuse of that substance is rendering their life in some way unmanageable, whether it be their relationships, their finances, something like that, to the point where they actually need counsel. If you have hundreds of millions of dollars like Johnny Depp has, spending thousands of dollars on coke and weed and wine, It's not an issue for you. So it's not causing a massive imbalance for him. And that's kind of what they're trying to show too, is that all this alcohol and cocaine and stuff that he supposedly bought was the reason that he had this financial downfall, when it wasn't. It wasn't. It was the people that were stealing from him, freeloading for him, and the fact that, yeah, we got to give him some responsibility. You shouldn't have been housing all these knuckleheads and paying for their parties every day. That's a bad idea, Johnny. But again, when you're a people pleaser, when you're set out to love bomb people so that way they never abandoned you or something, especially when you're a hopeless romantic, things can get out of sorts. And we talked about that in the last one. Like, that's where you trust your business managers and your financial advisors and your agents to make the deals on your business behalf that you as a creative don't want to entertain. You trust people with that. A famous instance of this is Dane Cook's stepbrother stole like $17 million from him, and it just flew under the radar. Dane Cook's whole career got destroyed and had to go away because he had no money to like go on the road and promote himself. He had to sue his brother or his brother-in-law or whatever it was. And like people just were able to trash his name, that he was a shit comedian and that he was out like bumping people's spots and stuff like that, when really it wasn't true. He was battling a court case that nobody knew about because he had his whole life ripped away from him because he trusted people. He was out being a creative, doing the Dane Cook thing, being a comedian, moving around, being one of the biggest comedians of all time back then. And he was busy doing what he does, and he trusted a team that fucked him. And Johnny Depp, having the same thing, sorry, my allergies are bothering me all of a sudden. He had a team behind him, and he realized that all these people were fucking him over. So then, yeah, he probably went on the panic and goes, let's fucking empty this whole ship. Agent, business managers, all these leecher-ons that I think are talking to the press, all y'all gotta go. Because I'm not paying another dime towards a single motherfucker that might have taken my money, while I've been doing nothing but making y'all well and comfortable. I'm done with all that. Let's talk about, in conclusion, before we get back to today's trial, because it is day 20. They are on lunch break, so we will see a few more witnesses. Amber Heard's team's time is running out severely. They have like less than 5 hours, I think, left, while Johnny Depp's team has plenty of time. Let's talk about, one thing I've always said, and I say it quite often, is consider the source, right? Look at the levels of expert witnesses and then just witnesses in general from both sides. Do you consider a single one of these Amber Heard witnesses credible? Or have they been exposed for the bullshit faking motherfuckers that they are, that even doctors, lawyers, psychologists, there's a price on everything, folks. And remember that when you go see your doctor, if God forbid you ever have to hire a lawyer, or when you go to see a therapist, you remember that for any amount of money, that person could be convinced to go tell a completely different narrative. Now, I'm not saying all of them are willing to do this. I'm watching plenty of psychologists rip this guy to shit for being unmoral and unethical, because that's exactly what he's being. But the thing is, we let it happen. There's not going to be some scathing petition to go around to get this guy to where he can't see patients anymore, but it's very clear he doesn't deserve to claim to be for mental health. He's a fucking criminal that takes money to go tell whatever narrative you pay him to tell. He's not dedicated to the truth, and he's not dedicated to helping people with mental health struggles. He's dedicated to making money and proving that he knows more than everybody else. That's what everyone's been so upset with this guy from, is he's got this pompous demeanor about him. He's got this, like, when he turns to look at the jury, he's like, I'm telling you, and you're going to believe it because it's me. Not in a way that Amber Heard did, where she was like, I'm going to say this, and I just need you to believe me, and then I don't care if you don't. This guy's going, look, it's me. It's me. I know all this stuff, and I'm telling you this, so, hey, come on. And then when he gets questioned, he's super offended. Well, I don't appreciate the way you're... Well, you're trying to imply that my client is all these things that he's not. And then he starts towards the end, when Dennison actually starts to dismantle him and decredit him, he starts to apologize a lot. Well, I'm sorry. Hey, guys, is apologies accepted in court? Do you get to apologize? No, I think when you testify under oath, you're fucking responsible for what you say. And especially in a defamation trial, what you try to imply is probably going to be used against you in the court of law. Oh, maybe that's why they tell you to stay silent, because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and up to and including at risk of perjury. You simple motherfucker. So again, all you doctors and lawyers and psychiatrists and psychologists that create these consultation firms where you can just charge law firms money and go speak on behalf of the mental health community, y'all who aren't actually doing it, let me emphasize this point, to help end stigmas towards mental health and are using it to weaponize people and weaponize mental health against people in civil or criminal court, you can all go fuck yourselves. Because there's plenty enough people trying to use mental health as a way to create scams and bullshit and get people online out of their money. I'll be damned if I watch it happen on a public platform on such a highly watched scale as this and not say anything about it. Because that motherfucker, what he just did was criminal, it was unethical, and he should be held responsible for it. It was disgusting. And with that, I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to let you guys get back to it. I love you so much. Do me a favor. If you haven't hit the like button, do that. Subscribe, do all that. Head on over, Road to Redemption Podcast. Check out all the merch. Check out the past episodes. I've been putting poems up there. Got all kinds of stuff. Check it out. Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 21. Love you.